Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar Feedback is a Gift today, together with Luisa Escobar. I see that we have already some people in the room, but we'll wait a couple of minutes and start around 3 past 5 to leave some people some time to join us. All right, we give some time to the people having some connection issue or finding the link. So, Luisa, I propose that we start. My name is Mathieu. I will be your host today and supporting Luisa in this exercise, presenting feedback is a gift or how the patient is the core of the business. And first, couple of information about this webinar. So first, just know that this webinar is being recorded and that you will all receive the link in your mailbox early next week while we have the time to put that on the proper format. And let me introduce you to Luisa, who is our speaker today. Luisa, after achieving a master in 2003 in laboratory and bacteriology clinic, Luisa completed her education in Brussels with a complementary master in public health. She started after that at CODA, where she worked for 5 years. CODA is a federal science establishment. It's actually the national reference in Belgium and laboratory for contagious animal diseases, mycotoxins, and trace elements in human and animal food. Then she had the brilliant idea to join us in March 2017, when she started as QC supervisor for one of our clients, where she built experience and evolved as deviation writer. And now, for more than 2 years, Luisa is acting as complaint QA specialist for customer incident management. And this leads me to the specific topic of today. So, Luisa, I give you the word and leave you all the attendees.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for being with us. I welcome you. Well, I'm pleased to talk to you a little bit about a mission that I'm currently working on. It's about 2 years now that I'm working for one of the companies, the biggest pharma companies in the world. And from my company, Jefferson Wells, it's been 3 years now. And I wanted to talk to you about a subject that it really has in my heart. It was like an evidence to call it in this way, because feedback is a gift. It means how much we appreciate the words from customers at the same time are patients, and which is the meaning of the patient advice, and it is the core of our business. So I wanted to start by the presentation is already done by Matthew. Actually, my current job is as a complaint specialist and the quality assurance department in the global department. So the main task that I'm performing is the preliminary evaluation of the complaints from the markets, particularly in the vaccines products that we are specialized. Then we analyze and coordinate the investigations and manufacturing sites for the received complaints that are coming from the market. And afterwards, the specialists must to define the complaint management strategy for specific defect trends. We are supposed as well to be the interface between the local representatives worldwide. It means that in each country we have a representative of our brand, and they are the bridge between our customers and the manufacturer. So we are the bridge as well from the global functions and the manufacturing sites. And last but not least, one of my tasks is to challenge those investigations that are done by the producers and summarize the investigation to be answered to the compliance. So the profile to being a complaint specialist is someone that is really open-minded and quality mindset, someone that speaks two or more languages, because as I already said, we are in contact with more than 150 countries around the world. In every country that we have our products, um, we are working in a really diversity and multicultural environment. We reach every stakeholder, and the area stakeholder management is one of the specific points that is really charming of this mission, I would say. The background of the studies that we are requesting for a complaint specialist is someone that has been in contact with science, for example, the formations in the biochemistry, the microbiology, biology, chemistry. We request some experience in GMP environmental, and that the preference is that being working with pharma before. The main values are empathy for the customer needs and product knowledge, and being in easy touch with people, with the stakeholders and the producers, and all those kind of profiles that we are talking every day. The different perception of the customer experience is culture dependent. So that's why the diversity plays a real important role in our file, because it's dependent of the culture. It won't be the same complaint coming from Germany or coming from USA, or for example, the Japanese market is a little bit more into the details. They require a high standard of quality that is different from another market, and maybe an African market will be less touchy in some details. And it's completely different, the approach of the customer concerning the complaints that they've been raising. So I wanted to talk to you, first of all, um, the process of the vaccines, because it's the product that I'm handling right now. And you know that probably is the subject that has been talked the most from the last year. You gotta know that the process of producing a vaccine is quite long. So in the first stage, we found the small scale studies in which we can handle the research, the fundamental research, and the applied research. And we are talking about the pharmaceutical quality. And then we are making develop those small molecules and those short scale tests in vitro and in vivo. In vitro means that we're gonna make those tests that we already proved that molecules work in cells or in tissue, but always in the lab. And in vivo, it means that we're gonna try to prove those molecules and those vaccines, those antigens or whatever, in some animal models. By the way, we are trying to reduce every time the quantity of animals that we are working with in the lab to reduce the impact. Afterwards, there are some steps that we call the clinical trials in phase 1, 2, and 3, and it's dependent of the quantity of the subjects that we're testing our molecules on it. Afterwards, there is all this stage of the legal part, the submission, and all the approval by committees, the agencies. For example, in the USA is the FDA, here in Europe is the EMA, and is more the legal part and the part that we are trying to evaluate and assess the impact and is the part of the evaluation and the decision from what are we gonna do, in which population, how many, the quantity, and all this stuff. Afterwards, once that we have in mind all the production, that will be clear, and we start to do the production at in big scale, on a scale up of production. So it means that we are going through the small tube in the lab to the big cube that we are working in the big production building, and during all these steps, we have to say that there are the safety studies as well, that have been a little bit discussed all this year, because people do not know that the safety part is also as important as the lab development as well. So if any point, do you have any questions, please do not hesitate to tell in the chat. Matthew is going to be ready to transfer the questions, and
I keep an eye on the chat. Yeah. Don't worry. You're all welcome to interrupt us with the chat. Don't hesitate.
Okay, great. So as you already had in your head, the vaccine process, from the lab to the big scale production, I wanted to tell you a little bit step, how do we get the final product. So once that we have the bacteria or the virus or the cell culture, we have to put it in a harvesting control. Then we're gonna make a purification of those proteins. Some of them, according to the type of the virus or the bacteria, we're gonna make an inactivation step if necessary. Then afterwards, we're gonna add some adjuvants, and we're performing the formulation. That is the step before the filling. So once that we have this, let's say a big soup, we're gonna put it in little vials or in syringe, according to the condition that we want to be sold to our customers. Once that we have our product ready to be packaged, we're gonna follow a cold chain and distribution program. It will be packaged, conditioned, and storage according to the customer needs. And once that the product has been already passed for all those controls that you see, in every step there is a quality control, then at the end it will be approved by our QP. The QP is the quality person that is allowing us to release a batch on the market. Once that all these steps are performed, we are ready to distribute. And the distribution is a big step of logistics around the world that is also controlled by our quality control steps. So, in which time the complaints are returning to us? The product complaint from a market to the manufacturing, we have to say that the first step is that a defect, a quality issue has been detected by our customer. Once that it has been done, one complaint is recorded by a call center in around 140 or 150 countries around the world. So once that we get this complaint recorded, we're gonna classify the defect according to our procedures. Afterwards, we're gonna launch the manufacturing investigation. We're gonna assess the impact of the gravity. It means not the gravity, the critical level, sorry. And then we're gonna support the multi-sites in-depth deviations, kappa, and stakeholders. It means that for for a complex company in the one that I'm working with, the vaccines are not only manufactured only one site. We have several sites of production, so the complaint specialist must to coordinate all the investigations around the world in different sites. Once the investigations are done, um, we are supposed to challenge the results to see if they are compliant to get a satisfactory answer to the customer. We assess the impact on the patient's health because this is um, the main objective, and the safety of the answer. Once that we have the investigations and those are concluded, we're going to translate these technical terms that most of the times will not be as that clear for the customer. So we're going to translate the technical terms to be communicated to them. And finally, we produce an investigation report for the customer. I wanted to share with you as well which kind of complaints for quality issue we receive every day. We can have some complaints about the raw materials, a defective vial or a defective syringe or an ampoule or a stopper that is a little skiff, or anything that can touch the raw materials that we use in production. We can have some of the complaints that talk to the content. It means the visual appearance of the product. If, for example, a doctor sees that the content of a syringe is a little bit more troubled that, or wider, or I don't know, if he sees something different, that can originate a complaint. We can have also complaints about the packaging, crashes, incomplete doses, the storage. Sometimes they can see the temperature excursion, so it's been related also with the distribution and cold chain. Complaints about the use, because maybe a syringe is defective, so they cannot push the plunger. Other kind of complaints is related to the side effects of the vaccines as well. Everything related with the medical aspect of the vaccine. And of course, there's a less, I would say, more serious part that is the counterfeiting and the falsified products, all the illegal parallel import that are detected by the authorities and the customs. Make part of the complaints that we handle every day. So
Still no question, no question, Luisa, in the chat. So it seems that you're crystal clear for everyone.
So one is crystal clear or not clear enough. I don't know.
We'll see at the end. Let's hope that people will have some more questions at the end. Maybe they're waiting to see if the answer are not coming later in your presentation.
Okay. So who is a customer or a client for us? Indeed, we can have all kind of customers, the distributors or the third party, but also the healthcare worker, the nurses, the doctor, a pediatrician, a pharmacist, but also the patients that pay and buy the vaccines by themselves, the government. Most of the programs in the government, they buy by their own the doses for the population. So the World Health Organization as well, the UNICEF, and it's a kind of advantage if we look at like that, because sometimes we can say for sure that the customer experience will be depending of the defect detection. It means that affirmation, a pharmacist will detect easily defects than the patient itself. Um, Sometimes when a nurse or a doctor goes in campaign, a vaccination campaign, he is used to take a look from several products at the same time. He already recognized one, there is a defective one or another. So the expertise of the customer is really important for us to have this feedback from our products, because finally the final the final customer is giving us the the assessment of what are we having, like the impact of the production in the market. What is going on in the manufacturer when someone raises a complaint? So as I said before, the market complaint, it's depending of the customer experience. For us, and especially for the teams that are all day in the production with the machines and the big spaces and the million of doses passing through the machines, it's an opportunity for the improvements, to review its process for continuous improvement. It means that when a customer says, for example, I see that one label is not in the right position, maybe you can came into your machine, see what's happening, and you can detect the problem through our root cause analysis. That is the method that we use to perform the investigation. So sometimes, I wouldn't say the most of the times, the feedback of the customer is priceless, because it makes you to better work each time and get a well position against your competitors. So in the manufacturer as well, the production rates is depending of the release in the lots, because this is the core of the business. We are selling products, but we are selling being conscious that we're going to have an impact on patients' health. And we have to follow as well world standard that are to be at least compliant and beyond the compliance. I have to say as well that sometimes the deviation and the corrective action, preventive actions that are being implemented in manufacturing sometimes can be seen as extra work for the operators or the technicians, but at the end, we're gonna see it reflected in less time consuming, because if we work every time better, we're gonna have less effective products at the end. So it's a cost benefit operation that we made when we perform some activities to improve the line of the process. Something that is important also to say is that when we raise a complaint as a customer, all these investigations are reflected in our operator teams, because all this information is transmitted to them, to the operators and the supervisors, to realize that the work that they are doing every day, it has a real impact to someone that bought a product and that is probably not satisfied, or that get not enough quality for his money, or in the opposite side, we have a good feedback. For example, the defect in empty boxes. We have, for example, this defect that it's been shared a lot in between our team. Imagine that you buy a mobile phone, and when you open the box, there's nothing inside. How would you feel about it? So it's the same for a vaccine. If you buy it, or imagine that a government buy 5 million doses and he only gets 3 million. So let's think in the way that um, the quality issue impacts on not only patient health, but is only a matter of customer service and customer satisfaction. And every time that we get with this feedback to our operator teams, they are more aware and they realize the impact that they have on the market issues. Once again, these investigations in multi-site impact in complex companies as the one that I'm working for, actually, because it's a really complex network. One raw material that is being located, has been produced in Germany, can be filled in the US and then returned back in Europe to be packaged and distributed in around the world. So it's a really complex network. So the complaint specialist it's the core, I would say, is the base to align all this information and get a satisfactory answer to the customer as well. I wanted to just mention a couple examples of what kind of product of quality issue we can find. But as I mentioned before, the packaging on open flaps is not a big critical defect, but sometimes when you have a carton box, there is suddenly one flap that is open, so it's considered like a defect. Some broken containers as well. And there we are talking about integrity and sterility compromise from vial syringes. The appearance after reconstitution, if there are some particles inside, at that point we start to evaluate all the steps from the bulk and the formulation to the packaging to avoid any compromise or any responsibility of the production. Which makes me think that being working in production is a real asset for this job, because we get some critical vision of the investigation. As much as we know the lines and the process, we can challenge a little bit more the investigations, and we know even more the detailed knowledge of the prototypes, the machines, and the process. That's important as well. So which take us to the point from the feedback to the customer. The investigation report to the client must be understandable in understandable language. It means that for the customer, the fact that he bothered to raise a complaint, it means that he cares about the product, and he's expecting to have an answer that complies or that satisfies this query. It means that our responsibility is to answer the customer in easy language to assure the responsibility of the company, and most of the time is giving an answer in the sense of the safety assurance and guarantee that our products are in the best quality as possible. The feedback to the client also assures the improvement of the actions and defect prevention in our process. And the last but not least of the items is the acknowledgement of the responsibility of the company. Sometimes we already know that there is no zero risk in our process, and we recognize some part of responsibility in some defects, and it could be a defect that can compromise the patient's health. So it will be um, uh, a process of recall of the batches in the market, but that's extremely rare. But in all cases, we try to assume the quality of the product as well.
Louisa, I'm coming with
Yes.
a question from Sabrine. If you can come back to the slide before, Sabrine was interested in having more example of production defects.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about defects on product itself, not the raw material that you have already managed.
Yeah. More example like what can I tell you? Uh, the use, for example, and utilization of a product. You know that sometimes the syringe has a little backstop behind to avoid the plunger rod to slip out of the syringe. So when a nurse is using the syringe, if the plunger slips out, all the products, all the containers will slip out as well. So that's one of the defects that has been improved with a backstop, a safer backstop to avoid these plunger were slipped out. What else can we see? There's something really new, but in our company there is the coring of the stopper. For some markets, we do not provide the needles with the vials, and for example, for German market, I don't know if that is because they are so big, so they use the bigger needles and they pierce the stopper. And when they pierce the stopper, there is a little bit of rubber that falls down into the liquid. So they think they see this particle, and with reason they say, "Oh, it's contaminated." No, 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 it's not contaminated. So there is all this investigation to realize that if we do not use the suggested, the advised needle, we can generate a problem afterwards. Well, there is one really interesting that it talks about the aluminum salts. So, as you might know, the aluminum salts, that is another story, but I'm gonna just put it in a quickly parenthesis. The aluminum salts are adjuvants, which means that there are some products that helps to induce an immunological response, and it has a particular appearance that are also more cloudy. So you can see your vial or your central a little more cloudy. But that is normal for us that we know the products. But sometimes a nurse or a doctor can say, it's a little bit troubled inside. So can you investigate it? So that one is a trouble as well.
Thanks a lot. Sabrine, if you want more example, do not hesitate to drop some more comments in the Q&A section, and we'll come back to it at the end of the presentation. Thank you, Luisa.
Welcome. So I'm about to give you a little bit conclusion. The feedback to the market is an opportunity to be better, to work better. And I wanted to give you this reflection because in these difficult times that pharma world is facing, um, I see thousands and hundreds of people every day working so hard, scientists, technicians, operators, working with passion for achieving the goals, to people being good with the health that sometimes is heartbreaking. All these fake news on them, things about vaccines that are not really logic. So the feeling of the patient is really important for us because we are trying to work every day harder and in totally transparency, at least from the scientist position. And we're the main objective is getting the excellence after all. It allows the companies to get in a better position for ourselves and in relation with the competition as well. And it's really important the product technical complaint on file, because we are looking the reflect of our production in the file as well. So I think that's my last slide. So I hope you have some questions or some comments. I will be pleased to answer them.
Thanks a lot, Luisa, for your presentation. We have a comment from Luis. Great job, Luisa. But I think that the key detected need that the patient or final customer are more patient-centered institutions like yours. So that's friendly comment from Luis. Maybe to help with the discussion, I had one question for you. It's actually, when handling complaints, what is the most difficult part in all the process, all the journey that you shared with us? What is the most difficult part to encounter?
Well, that's a question. The most difficult part, I would say, well, there is not only one. Sometimes the customer is not used to get no for an answer. So we are in a hurry time, trying to be as much as clear with the public and with the market about our process and about our products. So I would say the customer feeling sometimes not that the description of a complaint is not that clear enough to get into the focus investigation at the beginning. That's for one part. I would say the second part, there is a subject that it really touched my, I would say, my heart, like mom, also like scientist, and is the counterfeiting products. It's a battle every day, trying to find out if there are falsified products in the market that will be probably finishing in little babies or human in general. So that's a battle every day. So fortunately, it's not that common, but yeah, I think it's a touchy issue, I think.
Okay, thanks a lot. And maybe a second one, as you're talking about personal, maybe a more personal one. What gives you in those challenges, in those tasks, in those activities? What gives you the most energy or the most fulfillment out of it?
I love the contact with people. Having chat with Saudi Arabia and Argentina and Pakistan the full day, it's really rich. It's really important for me. And once that you get all this perspective from the cultures of the patients' expectations, that for me is the most, I would say, passionate, and it is exciting to reach all these people through the complaints, because after all, who is complaining is someone that is not happy. Because so when you turn this complaint to something that could be positive for the company or for the customer, that's the nicest part, I think. Yeah.
That's indeed a great achievement. Thank you. Well, I think that we're good with the webinar, as I'm not seeing any new questions coming in the chat. So feel free to still add anything if you're thinking about something. We have Luis asking something else. Thank you, Luis. What are the marked difference on quality issues between European and Latin American market over the obvious language issues?
Mm-hmm. I would say Latin American market is not a market that complains a lot. Really not. No. The market that complains the most is US and Germany. I would say Switzerland as well. But Latin America, sometimes I have a couple of counterfeits. I have also low fill volumes that when you're not, you do not have the full volume of in your vial. But I would say, but once again, it's something more cultural.
Okay.
That's probably because some of the governments in Latin America they buy the products for the population. So as the population do not pay, so we do not have that culture to make a reclamation because something is going wrong. In
Or
opposite with
because
the
it's
U.S.
given.
Yeah, because for example, in the U.S. they pay because with their own money, so they want something that is perfect, right? Um, yeah, I would say that if culturally we are not that in this passion for suing everyone and giving some process to everyone. So no, Latin America, unfortunately, it's not a market that complains for me because it's my job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have a new question for Lise, but I think this one is more to me. So Lise is asking, so is telling us that she's following the webinar because she had a conversation with a recruiter in Belgium. She's graduated as a bioengineer, cell and gene biotechnology, and as a starter with no experience at Jefferson Wells, what could be her contribution to the company? I think there's still plenty of things you could do, Lise. It's not always easy to answer that out of the blue without talking about a position, but there are still plenty of customer where we have opportunities, but it's sometimes difficult to get that first job opportunity. That's obvious. But maybe with your own experience at Jefferson Wells, Luisa, you're still present in the team for years now. What would you advise, Lise?
For a bioengineering.
Yeah, bioengineer, cell and biotechnology.
Biotechnology. Well, I see those kind of profile in production for sure. Well, if she has experience in quality control as well, of course.
Mhm.
But if she likes the engineering, production will be perfect for her because there are biggest prototypes, the big machines, all the production in scale. Uh, I would say production in formulation or bulk or a filling. Um, doesn't matter in which stage, but if she's really team oriented, working with some people to manage people, and that's the kind of profile that they are currently looking.
Thanks, much appreciated. So,
Yeah.
Lise, if that recruiter is part of our team, I'll make sure that we have a second look at your profile. If it was not with us, do not hesitate to send us your resume in reply when you'll get
Mhm.
the link afterwards. But thanks a lot for asking. You're welcome, Lise, and thanks, Luisa, for helping me with this one.
My pleasure.
Don't see anything else coming. So, gentle reminder: this has been recorded. We'll be sending you early next week a mail with the link to the video podcast that will be published on our website. Feel free to also follow us on LinkedIn on our Jefferson Wells Belgium page, where we'll be publishing more and more webinar. You'll see that it's not only about life sciences, as we have 4 verticals, but be sure that we'll have more to come, as it's definitely part of our new communication strategy. And looking forward to have more collaboration with all of you. And thanks a lot for your participation today. And thank you,
Okay.
especially to you, Lisa, for your presentation and the time you invested.
My pleasure. Have a nice day.
Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Bye. See ya.